Picture it with me, if you will. We start our journey in ancient Athens, around 360 BC, where Plato, the grand philosopher himself, sat in his study, surrounded by scrolls and ink, preparing to record a story he'd heard from his grandfather, who'd heard it from the great lawgiver Solon, who, in turn, had traveled to Egypt and learned it from the priests. Yes, Atlantis was already an ancient tale by Plato's time, a fable as old as memory itself. According to Plato's account, Atlantis existed some 9,000 years before his time. Now, this was no ordinary island, oh no. Atlantis was an empire unto itself, vast and sprawling, with lands fertile and green, teeming with all manner of plants and animals found nowhere else on earth. In those days, they say, the Atlanteans could commune with the spirits of nature. They had shamans who could call forth the rain, farmers who could coax life from the driest soil, and healers who knew the secrets of every herb and flower. Atlantis was the pride of Poseidon, who watched over it with the fierce love of a father for his child. Poseidon, the god of the sea, storms, and earthquakes. He is a figure of might and mystery, revered and feared by mortals and immortals alike. Poseidon is one of the most powerful gods of the ancient Greek pantheon, brother to Zeus, the king of the gods, and Hades, ruler of the underworld. He held dominion over all waters, both calm and tempestuous, and was as unpredictable as the oceans he commanded. Let me take you deeper into the myths, legends, and personality of Poseidon, the mighty sea god. Poseidon was born to Cronus and Rhea, two titans who ruled the cosmos before the rise of the Olympian gods. As the myth goes, Cronus, fearing a prophecy that one of his children would overthrow him, swallowed each of them at birth. Poseidon, like his siblings, was swallowed whole by his father, only to be saved by his younger brother Zeus. After Zeus forced Cronus to disgorge his siblings, the Olympian gods waged a great war against the Titans, ultimately emerging victorious. Following their victory, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades drew lots to divide the realms of the world among themselves. Zeus claimed the sky, Hades took the underworld, and Poseidon was granted dominion over the sea. Though he respected Zeus as the king of the gods, Poseidon was never entirely content with his lot and often desired more power, leading to a long-standing rivalry between the brothers. Poseidon's family extended to his own children, many of whom inherited his strength, resilience, and tempestuous nature. He fathered a number of offspring, both mortal and divine, including the hero Theseus, the Cyclops Polyphemus, and the winged horse Pegasus. Like Poseidon, many of his children were associated with the sea and bore elements of his wild, untamed spirit. Poseidon's most recognizable symbol is his trident, a three-pronged spear that he wielded with terrifying skill. Crafted by the Cyclopes, his trident was a weapon of immense power, capable of summoning storms, raising islands from the sea, and causing earthquakes with a single strike. It was said that when Poseidon struck the earth with his trident, mountains would tremble and rivers would flow anew. In some legends, the trident was also used to control and calm the seas, granting him the ability to still the waves as easily as he could whip them into a frenzy. In addition to the trident, Poseidon is often depicted with sea creatures such as dolphins and fish, which symbolize his connection to the marine world. The bull was also sacred to Poseidon, reflecting his strength and virility. Horses, too, are associated with him, as he was said to have created the first horse, a creature as wild and powerful as the ocean itself. The ancient Greeks sometimes referred to him as the tamer of horses, and believed that he protected sailors and provided safe passage across the seas. Poseidon's domain was a magnificent palace beneath the sea, often described as being constructed of coral and adorned with pearls and precious gems. It was located in the depths of the Aegean Sea, though its exact location was known only to Poseidon and those he deemed worthy. The palace was guarded by sea nymphs, and within its halls, the walls shimmered with the iridescent glow of seashells and the flickering light of bioluminescent creatures. From this underwater fortress, Poseidon ruled not only the oceans but all freshwater bodies, including rivers, lakes, and springs. His palace was said to be a place of unparalleled beauty, where the light filtered down through the water and cast shifting patterns across the coral walls. Here, Poseidon would hold court, surrounded by his attendants, including the Nereids, a group of sea nymphs who served as his loyal companions. Poseidon was as unpredictable as the sea itself, embodying both its gentlest and most fearsome aspects. On one hand, he was capable of great kindness and generosity. He blessed fishermen with bountiful catches, guided sailors to safety, and provided fresh water to lands in need. In these moments, he was a protector, a benevolent deity whose power was respected and revered. But Poseidon also had a fierce, vengeful side. He could be wrathful and destructive, especially if he felt disrespected or slighted. There are countless myths in which Poseidon's anger was provoked, leading to catastrophic consequences. For example, when King Minos of Crete refused to sacrifice a bull as promised, Poseidon cursed his wife to fall in love with the animal, resulting in the birth of the monstrous Minotaur. Similarly, when Odysseus blinded Poseidon's son, the Cyclops Polyphemus, Poseidon unleashed a relentless series of storms that delayed the hero's return to Ithaca by many years. Poseidon's temperament was said to be deeply affected by the seas he ruled. In times of calm, he was thoughtful and introspective, but when storms brewed, his rage could be as thunderous as the waves he commanded. This duality made him one of the most complex and fascinating gods, embodying both the life-giving and life-taking power of the ocean. Poseidon's influence extended to the very formation of the world itself. He was often credited with the creation of islands and was said to have raised land from the ocean depths to form new realms. This power is central to the myth of Atlantis, as Poseidon is described as the island's founder and protector, having raised it from the depths for his beloved Cleito. Poseidon's islands were a testament to his strength and a reminder of his creative prowess, showing that he was not only a god of destruction but also one of creation. Poseidon, much like Zeus, had a reputation for being passionate and amorous, engaging in numerous love affairs with both goddesses and mortal women. His romances were often tumultuous and produced children who carried elements of his power. Some of his most famous lovers included Amphitrite, a Nereid whom he made his queen after pursuing her across the oceans. Though she initially fled, unwilling to become his bride, she eventually relented, and their union was celebrated with a grand feast attended by gods and sea creatures alike. Another well-known love story involves Demeter, the goddess of the harvest. When Poseidon desired her, she transformed herself into a mare to escape his advances, but he pursued her even in this form, transforming himself into a stallion. From their union was born the horse Arion, a creature of unmatched beauty and speed. This myth not only underscores Poseidon's passion but also his connection to horses, further solidifying his association with these majestic animals. Though Poseidon was primarily a sea god, his influence extended to other realms as well. He was known as the Earthshaker, a god of earthquakes who could cause the ground to tremble with a single strike of his trident. The ancient Greeks often invoked Poseidon's name during earthquakes, seeking his mercy and protection. His connection to the earth added another layer to his power, making him a deity who could shape the land and the sea alike. Moreover, Poseidon was sometimes associated with fertility and abundance, as he provided water, an essential element for life, to nourish crops and sustain communities. In this sense, he was a god of life and growth, one whose blessings were vital to the survival of the people. Poseidon's worship was widespread throughout the ancient Greek world, with temples and altars dedicated to him along coastlines and at natural springs. One of his most famous temples was located at Cape Saunion, overlooking the Aegean Sea, where sailors would stop to offer sacrifices before embarking on dangerous voyages. Festivals such as the Isthmian Games were held in his honor, featuring athletic competitions and celebrations that brought people together to pay tribute to the sea god. To the people of Atlantis, Poseidon was not just a god but the very lifeblood of their civilization. He was revered as the ultimate protector, a deity who watched over them from his palace beneath the waves and ensured their prosperity and safety. They believed that as long as they honored Poseidon, their city would endure, blessed by his power and grace. Now, the Atlanteans were not only wise and strong but also exceedingly clever. They built cities that glistened in the sunlight, temples that soared into the sky, and harbors that teemed with ships from every corner of their empire. It was said that Atlantis was a city of bridges and canals, where water and land intertwined like lovers' hands. At the center of it all was Poseidonia, a city so grand that even the gods would envy it. The Temple of Poseidon was the heart of Poseidonia. Now there is a place truly worthy of wonder and reverence. In all of Atlantis, no structure was more grand, more imposing, or more imbued with the mystique of the divine than this temple. Allow me to transport you there, if only in imagination, to walk its hallowed halls and gaze upon its splendor. As you approach the Temple of Poseidon, you find yourself walking along a broad avenue paved with stones of gleaming white marble, each one smooth and cool beneath your feet. On either side of the avenue are lush gardens, filled with exotic plants that bloom in colors more vivid than anything you've ever seen. Flowers of deep indigo and fiery crimson, their petals edged in gold, sway gently in the breeze, filling the air with their intoxicating fragrance. The avenue is lined with statues of sea creatures, dolphins leaping joyfully, great whales with eyes that seem to glisten with wisdom, and serpentine sea dragons coiled in silent watchfulness. Each statue is carved from a single piece of stone, so lifelike that you half expect them to spring to life at any moment. And towering above them all, stand colossal statues of Poseidon himself, holding his mighty trident aloft, as if to protect the city he loves so dearly. As you reach the end of the avenue, you come to the outer walls of the temple complex. These walls are a marvel in themselves, built of stones of red, black, and white, arranged in intricate patterns that catch the sunlight and seem to pulse with an inner glow. The walls rise to a staggering height, topped with battlements that glisten as if dusted with silver. It's said that the stones were brought from the farthest reaches of the Atlantean Empire, each one blessed by priests to ward off evil spirits and ensure the temple's protection. The gates are of beaten bronze, massive and imposing, etched with scenes from the life of Poseidon. You see the god rising from the waves, his hair a cascade of sea foam, and you see him taming wild horses and calming tempests with a wave of his trident. The gates swing open with a low, resonant hum, and you step into the temple grounds. Inside, you find yourself in an expansive courtyard, surrounded by cloisters and colonnades. Here, the air is cool and filled with the faint scent of salt water. In the center of the courtyard is a grand reflecting pool, its surface as smooth as glass. The water is so clear that you can see straight to the bottom, where mosaics of tiny, colored stones depict scenes of the sea, mermaids and mermen, fish of every size and color, and even the great sea serpent, Cetus, curling around the perimeter. Around the pool, priests and priestesses clad in robes of azure and sea green move silently, their heads bowed in reverence. They are caretakers of the temple, trained from childhood in the rituals of Poseidon. Some are tending to the sacred fish in the pool, which are said to be the spirits of Atlantean ancestors, while others are singing hymns in a language so ancient that it is known only to the priests. At last, you enter the temple itself, stepping into the great hall. Here, the ceiling rises so high that it seems to touch the heavens. Massive columns, carved to resemble coral and adorned with shells and pearls, line the hall. Each column is wrapped in ivy and flowering vines that are said to bloom eternally, fed by the sacred waters that flow beneath the temple. The walls are adorned with frescoes depicting the history of Atlantis, from its founding by Poseidon to the conquests of its kings. And then there is the statue, the mighty, awe-inspiring statue of Poseidon that dominates the hall. It stands at least 50 feet tall, carved from a single piece of orichalcum, that rare and mysterious metal that glows with an inner fire. Poseidon is depicted holding his trident in one hand and a conch shell in the other. His eyes are inlaid with sapphires the size of a man's fist, and his crown is studded with precious gems that sparkle like stars. The base of the statue is surrounded by a moat of water, so clear that it's almost invisible. Small, golden fish swim in the moat, their scales catching the light and creating a play of colors on the walls. It's said that these fish are sacred to Poseidon and that they have been living in the temple since its construction. Some believe they are the spirits of Atlanteans who have been blessed by the god and granted eternal life within his temple. Behind the statue lies the inner sanctum, a place so sacred that only the high priest and a select few are allowed to enter. The inner sanctum is guarded by two immense doors of obsidian, inlaid with silver and decorated with carvings of the great leviathans of the deep. It's said that anyone who enters without the god's blessing will be struck blind, their eyes scorched by the divine light within. Inside the inner sanctum is a pool of the purest water, said to be drawn from the depths of the ocean itself. The water is used in the most sacred of ceremonies, including the anointing of the kings and the blessing of the warriors before they go into battle. Surrounding the pool are smaller statues of Poseidon's children, his sons and daughters, each one depicted with the same fierce beauty that the god himself possesses. There are offerings here, too, bowls of pearls, shells, and precious stones, given by the people of Atlantis as tokens of their devotion. The temple is not just a place of worship, but a center of life for the Atlanteans. Every 5th and 6th year, grand festivals are held in honor of Poseidon. On these days, the people gather in the courtyard, where they offer sacrifices of bulls adorned with garlands of flowers. The high priest, clad in robes embroidered with threads of gold, leads the ceremony, calling upon Poseidon to bless the people and protect their lands from harm. One of the most sacred rituals involves the sacred spring, a small fountain within the temple that is said to grant visions to those who drink from it. Only the most devoted priests are permitted to partake, and even they must undergo rigorous purification rites before they are deemed worthy. Those who drink from the spring often speak of strange and wonderful visions, of underwater cities, of great battles fought beneath the waves, and of the god himself, watching over Atlantis with his trident in hand. Now, there are legends, of course, of the temple's hidden powers. It is said that beneath the temple of Poseidon lies a vast network of tunnels, leading to chambers filled with treasures and artifacts from the earliest days of Atlantis. Some claim that the temple itself is a kind of beacon, drawing power from the ocean and channeling it into the land, giving the Atlanteans their strength and vitality. And then there is the tale of the trident of Poseidon, a weapon of unimaginable power that is said to be hidden within the temple. According to legend, the trident can control the seas, summon storms, and even open portals to other worlds. Many have sought the trident, but none have found it, for it is protected by powerful spells that only the high priest can break. The Atlanteans were also masters of science and technology. They had machines that could move on their own, powered by strange crystals that absorbed energy from the sun. These machines, they say, could fly through the air and dive into the depths of the ocean. Their physicians could heal the sick with nothing more than a touch, and their scholars could predict the movements of the stars with a precision that even our modern scientists would envy. Atlantis was a place of festivals, too. Every year, the people celebrated the Festival of the Moons, when the twin moons of Atlantis aligned perfectly in the night sky. For one night, the entire island was bathed in a soft, silvery light, and the Atlanteans would gather to dance, sing, and tell stories of their ancestors. There were feasts that lasted for days, with tables laden with exotic fruits and dishes prepared with spices from the farthest reaches of their empire. Ah, the libraries of Atlantis! They were treasures in themselves, more than mere repositories of knowledge. They were living monuments to human achievement, a testament to the Atlanteans' reverence for wisdom, beauty, and truth. Each library was a marvel of architecture, with towering shelves that seemed to reach the heavens and vaulted ceilings painted with celestial maps, intricate star charts, and constellations that glittered with the light of embedded gemstones. As you stepped inside, the polished marble floors, inlaid with gold and rare stones, reflected the shimmering light from chandeliers of orichalcum, casting a warm glow that seemed to pulse with the heartbeat of the city itself. The libraries were organized into vast wings, each dedicated to a different field of study. There were rooms filled with scrolls on the arts of healing, where ancient herbalists and physicians catalogued their knowledge of plants, minerals, and even spiritual remedies. In these rooms, one could find writings on everything from simple potions for soothing fevers to advanced treatments that could mend bones or even prolong life. The Atlanteans believed that physical and spiritual health were intertwined, so their healers were as much philosophers as they were doctors, blending science with spirituality in ways we can only begin to comprehend. The hall dedicated to astronomy was a marvel in itself. Here, the Atlanteans charted the stars, tracking the movements of celestial bodies with astounding accuracy. They had instruments, crafted from metals that seemed to absorb the light of the sun, that could observe planets and stars far beyond our modern sight. Their maps were etched into crystal tablets that glowed with a faint luminescence, allowing scholars to trace the heavens with their fingers. They held a profound belief that the stars were more than mere points of light. They were windows into the divine, each one holding secrets that, if understood, could reveal the very nature of existence. The Atlantean astronomers spoke of other worlds, of cosmic cycles, and of the interconnectedness of all things in a way that suggests a wisdom far beyond their time. And what of philosophy? The Atlanteans were thinkers of the highest order, and their philosophical debates were known to last for days, drawing crowds from all corners of the city. There were schools of thought devoted to every conceivable question. What is the nature of reality? Does the soul exist beyond the body? What is the true meaning of justice? These debates took place in open courtyards surrounded by fragrant gardens, where scholars would sit on benches carved from the very stone of Atlantis, often overlooking fountains whose water sparkled with a strange inner light. The philosophers of Atlantis pursued truth with a passion, yet they were also humble, knowing that with every answer came new questions, each more profound than the last. The libraries were open to all who wished to learn. No rank or status barred entry to these hallowed halls. Here, peasants and princes sat side by side, united in their quest for knowledge. For the Atlanteans, knowledge was not a privilege of the few but a right of all, a sacred gift from the gods that must be shared. They held learning in the highest regard, and those who pursued it were honored throughout the land. Every Atlantean was encouraged to seek wisdom, whether through reading, listening, or simply observing the world around them. In the library's alchemical wing, scientists conducted experiments that would boggle our minds today. They worked with elements we have yet to name, exploring the properties of materials that seem to defy the laws of physics. The Atlanteans were particularly fascinated by crystals, which they believed could harness the energy of the sun, the moon, and even the human soul. They crafted devices that could fly through the air, powered by solar energy stored in these crystals, and they had machines that could dive into the depths of the ocean, where they explored the unknown realms beneath the waves. Some of their devices were said to have the power to heal, to communicate over great distances, and even to alter the mind, sharpening intellect or soothing fears. In the wing dedicated to the arts, the walls were covered with murals of breathtaking beauty. These murals depicted scenes from Atlantean history, mythology, and even dreams, for the Atlanteans believed that the dream world was a realm of its own, as real as the waking world. Artists worked with pigments that glowed like fire and shimmered like water, creating works so vivid they seemed to move. Sculptures of gods, heroes, and mythical creatures filled the halls, each one a testament to the skill and vision of its creator. They sculpted with materials so rare and delicate that only the most skilled artisans could work with them, crafting statues that seemed to breathe, to blink, to shift when seen from different angles. And the poets! The poets of Atlantis were said to have voices that could stir the very stones. They crafted words as a jeweler might craft a necklace, with precision and care, stringing them together into verses that touched the soul. The greatest of these poets were believed to possess the sight, an ability to glimpse the threads of fate and to weave them into their verses. They spoke of love and loss, of bravery and betrayal, of the eternal dance between light and dark. Their words lingered in the minds of those who heard them, haunting like a melody that could not be forgotten. The music of Atlantis was equally enchanting, played on instruments made from materials that resonated with the natural harmonies of the earth and sea. Musicians crafted harps from silver, flutes from jade, and drums from hollowed-out shells. Their melodies could calm a storm, heal the sick, and bring peace to the troubled soul. It was said that during times of sorrow, the people would gather in the libraries to listen to the musicians, who played in rooms designed with acoustics so perfect that every note seemed to echo forever. Their music was not just heard, it was felt, vibrating through the air, through the body, through the very spirit. As Atlantis grew in wealth and knowledge, so too did the ambition of its rulers. The kings, once humble stewards who cared deeply for their people and the harmony of their island, began to turn their gaze outward, coveting lands beyond their borders. Greece, Egypt, and other distant realms that had once been viewed as neighbors were now seen as potential prizes, ripe for the taking. The Atlanteans, who had long believed themselves blessed by the gods, started to see their prosperity as a sign that they were destined to rule over all they surveyed. This belief gave birth to a military force unlike any other. Armies were raised and trained with precision, outfitted in armor that shimmered like the sun's rays on the open sea. The craftsmen of Atlantis forged weapons from rare and powerful metals known only to them, materials so strong that they could cut through stone, and so light that they allowed warriors to move with astonishing speed and agility. Their shields were said to be impenetrable, capable of withstanding not only the blows of earthly weapons but also the fury of storms and fire. In the minds of the Atlantean rulers, their warriors were invincible, destined to spread the glory of Atlantis to every corner of the known world. The preparations for conquest were meticulous and relentless. Naval fleets, vast and unparalleled in size, were constructed in the grand harbors of Poseidonia. These ships, crafted from the finest woods and reinforced with Atlantean metal, were swift and deadly, capable of traversing the seas with a speed and grace that seemed almost supernatural. Each vessel was equipped with weapons of great power, catapults that could hurl stones the size of boulders, and enchanted bows that fired arrows which never missed their mark. The Atlantean navy became a floating fortress, feared by all who caught sight of its sails on the horizon. With their armies and navy prepared, the Atlanteans set their eyes on their first targets. Greece, with its storied lands and rich history, was a tantalizing prospect. Egypt, the ancient land of the pharaohs, held treasures and mysteries that called out to the Atlantean kings. And so they launched their campaigns, sweeping across the Mediterranean with the force of a storm. The first skirmishes were brutal and decisive. The Atlanteans, with their superior weapons and unmatched discipline, overwhelmed their foes. Cities fell before them like trees before a mighty wind, and their empire expanded rapidly, swallowing lands and peoples who could do little to resist. But with each victory, the kings of Atlantis grew more arrogant. They began to believe that their success was inevitable, that no power on earth, or even in the heavens, could oppose them. They dismissed the teachings of their philosophers, who had long warned of the dangers of hubris, and the wisdom of their healers, who knew that the spirit of conquest could poison even the strongest soul. The old ways, the ways of reverence and humility, were cast aside in favor of glory and domination. Yet there were those in Atlantis who could see the shadow looming over their island. The oracles, wise and ancient, had visions of doom that they shared with trembling voices. They saw flames consuming the great libraries, storms tearing through the temples, and the ocean rising to claim the very land itself. They warned the kings, begged them to abandon their quest for conquest, to turn back before it was too late. But the kings would not listen. They laughed at the oracles, dismissing their visions as the ramblings of those too fearful to seize destiny. And so the libraries, once the heart of Atlantean learning, grew silent. The scholars, the philosophers, the artists, all who had once filled these hallowed halls with the quiet murmur of study and reflection, were now either conscripted into the war effort or left behind in a city that seemed to have lost its soul. Scrolls and tomes, filled with the accumulated knowledge of centuries, lay forgotten as the people turned their focus to war. The knowledge that Atlantis had so carefully preserved, the wisdom that had once been the foundation of their society, was left to gather dust as the citizens marched off to expand their empire. And yet, even as their armies pushed onward, the Atlanteans remained blind to the danger they faced. They had forgotten the lessons of their ancestors, who had taught that power without humility could lead only to ruin. They had turned their backs on the gods, believing that their own might was all they needed to conquer the world. But the gods were watching, and they were not pleased. In the heavens, Zeus, the king of the gods, looked down upon Atlantis and saw the pride and greed that had taken hold of the once noble civilization. He saw how they had ignored the pleas of the oracles, how they had laughed at the warnings of those who could see the truth. Zeus, whose wrath was known to be swift and terrible, knew that the Atlanteans must be punished for their hubris. He called a council of the gods, summoning them from their celestial thrones to decide the fate of the island. Poseidon, who had once loved Atlantis as a father loves a child, was torn. He had watched over the island since its founding, had blessed it with wealth and beauty, and had seen it grow into a land of wonder. But even he could not deny that his children had lost their way. With a heavy heart, Poseidon did not protest when Zeus declared that Atlantis must fall. He knew that the time had come to let go, to allow the island to meet the fate it had chosen. And so, as the gods watched, the skies over Atlantis began to darken. Clouds gathered, thick and black, obscuring the sun and casting a pall over the land. The air grew heavy with the scent of salt and ash, and the ground began to tremble beneath the feet of those who had so recently celebrated their conquests. The people looked up in fear as the ocean, once their ally, turned against them. Waves rose higher and higher, crashing against the shores with a fury that could not be contained. The mountains, which had stood watch over Atlantis for millennia, erupted in flames, spewing fire and smoke into the sky. Rivers of molten rock flowed down their slopes, consuming everything in their path. The earth itself seemed to cry out in pain, as if it could no longer bear the weight of the arrogance and greed that had poisoned the land. In a single day and night, the island of Atlantis was swallowed by the sea. The cities, the temples, the libraries, all were lost to the depths, buried beneath the waves that had once been their lifeblood. The knowledge and wisdom that the Atlanteans had gathered, the beauty they had created, the power they had wielded, it was all gone, reduced to silence and shadow beneath the ocean's surface. And so Atlantis passed into legend, a cautionary tale of a civilization that had once been great but had fallen because it forgot the lessons of humility and reverence. The sea claimed the island, and with it the dreams of an empire that had believed itself invincible. And now, the name of Atlantis lives on, a reminder that even the mightiest can be brought low by their own pride, and that knowledge without wisdom is as dangerous as a weapon without restraint. In the quiet that followed the destruction, there were whispers that perhaps some part of Atlantis had survived, that somewhere beneath the waves, the ruins of the great city still lay waiting to be discovered. And who knows? Perhaps, in some hidden corner of the ocean, the spirit of Atlantis endures, a ghostly reminder of a time when men believed they could challenge the gods themselves. Now, there are those who believe that the Atlanteans, in their final moments, cast a powerful spell to preserve their knowledge, wisdom, and perhaps even their very essence. According to this legend, they transformed themselves into dolphins, noble and intelligent creatures of the sea. These dolphins, it is said, still swim through the oceans today, guiding lost sailors back to safety and protecting those who show respect and reverence for the waters. These mysterious dolphins appear out of nowhere, navigating treacherous waters, calming storms, and offering aid to those who find themselves in peril. Mariners throughout history have recounted tales of dolphins leading them to safety in their darkest hours, convinced that these creatures are more than they seem. The Atlantean dolphins, as some call them, are believed to carry the knowledge and wisdom of a lost civilization, guarding it fiercely from those who would misuse it, and sharing it only with those they deem worthy. This transformation, so the legend goes, was more than mere survival. It was an act of eternal guardianship over the oceans they once ruled. In their new forms, the Atlanteans continue to roam the seas, vigilant protectors of their ancient domain. There are even stories of dolphins guiding explorers away from dangerous areas, or leading them to places of wonder hidden beneath the waves. Some believe that these dolphins can communicate telepathically with humans who are sensitive enough, sharing fragments of Atlantean wisdom or warnings about the world. For those who respect the sea and all its mysteries, these dolphins are friends and guides, a bridge between the world we know and the one that remains hidden. Yet, others hold a different belief. They say that Atlantis, the fabled city of wonder and beauty, never truly perished. Instead, it lies hidden beneath the waves, shrouded by powerful enchantments that protect it from the prying eyes of the modern world. According to these tales, the guardians of Atlantis have crafted spells so potent that even the most advanced technology cannot penetrate the veil that hides their city. These enchantments, created long ago by the wisest sorcerers, keep Atlantis safe from the outside world. In this hidden kingdom, the sun still shines brightly on the golden towers, and the gardens bloom with flowers that have never been seen on the surface. Here, the Atlanteans continue to live as they did in ancient times, their society thriving under the watchful eyes of their guardians, untouched by the passage of time. In the hidden world of Atlantis, it is said that magic and technology exist in perfect harmony. The Atlanteans have perfected knowledge that we can only dream of, including secrets of longevity, mind control, and powers beyond our comprehension. The citizens of Atlantis are rumored to live for centuries, sustained by ancient rituals and elixirs. This harmony between nature and invention has allowed the Atlanteans to thrive undisturbed for eons, evolving into a society that many believe to be the epitome of perfection. Atlantis is more than just a city, it is a sanctuary, a place where the arts and sciences flourish, and where knowledge of the universe is passed down through generations. The hidden city of Atlantis, they say, is a world within a world, a place where the laws of nature bend, where magic and technology coexist in perfect harmony. There are whispers that the Atlanteans possess devices and knowledge that would astound even the most brilliant minds of today. They are said to have mastered the secrets of longevity, and it is believed that many of them live to be hundreds, perhaps even thousands, of years old. These Atlanteans, with their advanced knowledge, continue to watch over the oceans, steering the course of events from behind the scenes, guiding humanity subtly and invisibly, always ensuring that the balance is maintained. And there are still whispers, my friend, oh yes, whispers indeed. The sound of the sea is filled with the echoes of Atlantis for those who have the ears to hear them. It is said that on quiet nights, when the moon hangs low and the stars glisten like jewels scattered across the sky, you can hear the distant laughter of Atlantean children playing in the streets of their lost city. The soft music of harps drifts on the breeze, mingling with the gentle lapping of the waves against the shore. And then, there is the solemn tolling of the bells from the great temple of Poseidon, their deep tones resonating through the depths, a reminder of the city's once great power and reverence for the sea god. Some say these sounds are but illusions, tricks played by the sea and the wind, but others know them to be true, signs that Atlantis still endures. To this day, there are those who dedicate their lives to the search for Atlantis. These explorers and adventurers scour the ocean floor, diving into the deepest, darkest parts of the seas in search of any clue that might lead them to the fabled city. They pore over ancient maps, studying every detail, every line and curve, hoping to uncover some hidden truth. These maps, often dismissed as myth or mere artistry, are believed by some to contain the secrets of Atlantis, encoded in symbols and language that only the most learned can decipher. These intrepid souls also study ancient texts, poring over scrolls and tablets that speak of Atlantis and its glory, piecing together fragments of stories long forgotten. Some have claimed to have found strange ruins, fragments of columns, or pieces of pottery that they believe once belonged to the Atlanteans. Others speak of mysterious artifacts pulled from the depths, strange relics that defy explanation. There are reports of crystal skulls, golden idols, and complex devices that appear to have been crafted with technologies unknown to our world. Yet, Atlantis remains as elusive as a shadow, always just beyond reach, disappearing like a mirage whenever it seems within grasp. For every artifact discovered, there are countless more that remain hidden, waiting to be found by those daring enough to venture into the unknown. The stories of Atlantis continue to capture the imagination of people around the world. From scholars to adventurers to dreamers, all are drawn to the legend, each hoping to be the one who finally uncovers its secrets. For some, the quest is more than just a search for a lost city, it is a journey into the unknown, a challenge that pushes them to the very limits of their endurance and curiosity. They believe that in finding Atlantis, they will uncover not only the secrets of an ancient civilization, but also the mysteries of the human spirit and our endless desire to explore. The search for Atlantis, they say, is a test of character, a quest that requires not only courage but also wisdom and patience. For those who seek Atlantis, it is not just a matter of uncovering ancient ruins but of rediscovering something that was once lost to humanity. It is the hope of finding a treasure trove of knowledge, a wellspring of wisdom that could change the world. They dream of finding the lost city, of walking its golden streets, gazing up at its magnificent temples, and breathing in the scents of exotic flowers that bloom in its gardens. They long to feel the warmth of the sun on their faces as they stand at the edge of the city, looking out over the endless expanse of the ocean, marveling at the beauty and grandeur of this forgotten world. The legend of Atlantis lives on, a beacon of hope and mystery, calling out to those who dare to dream and to those who believe that one day, Atlantis will rise again, revealing its secrets to those who have searched for so long. As the myth endures, so too does the fascination with Atlantis, fueling countless expeditions, studies, and artistic expressions. Some claim to see signs of Atlantis in the architecture of ancient civilizations, believing that fragments of Atlantean culture have survived in the temples of Egypt, the ruins of Greece, and the stone cities of South America. Others theorize that the wisdom of Atlantis lives on in secret societies, passed down through the ages to those chosen to safeguard its legacy. Whether through stories, songs, or hidden symbols, the essence of Atlantis weaves itself into the fabric of human history, a reminder of what once was and what might yet be. And so, the quest for Atlantis continues. Whether in the halls of academia, the decks of exploration vessels, or the imaginations of storytellers, the allure of the lost city remains undiminished. Atlantis, in all its mystery, serves as a testament to humanity's unyielding spirit, our drive to discover, understand, and push beyond the limits of what we know. The city beneath the waves calls to us, a siren song that lures us to the edge of knowledge and dares us to dive in. For some, this is enough. The pursuit of Atlantis itself is the journey, and the journey is the reward. But for others, the hope persists that one day, Atlantis will rise, and all its secrets will finally be revealed, shining a light on the path humanity has traveled and the path that lies ahead.